the Trillion Trees podcast hosted by Saad Allahwala. Join the movement. 1 trillion trees by 2030. Tune in for inspiring stories, groundbreaking ideas, and real solutions to tackle climate change. Listen to it. Watch every Saturday, 4 p.m. Make an impact now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Trillion Tree podcast, where we are now joined with a very exciting guest. For me, it's genuinely very exciting, not just something to say. We're joined by Ori Shashua. Is that how I should pronounce it? So Ori has been an entrepreneur, I would say, and very early entrepreneur, and has been doing a lot in with AI. And now I mean, there's a lot to say about Gigablue, but he's working at Gigablue. He's one of the co-founders, and I would prefer him making an intro more on how he started, what he's doing, and I'd just like to start off with thanking you for giving us your time.
I'm happy to be here, and thank you for hosting me today.
So with me, I'd like to get into the company later after learning about the founders. And since you're the founder joining us today, I'd love to hear your story. Where were you born? Where did you go to school, university? And how did your entrepreneurial journey start? Just so early on.
I think that I grew up as a kid that likes to basically take things apart and then reassemble them. So, the usual curiosity and story. And then I liked to build things and create things since an early age. And I really believed in technology and its ability to kind of make a positive impact. So if you look at my career, it revolved around machine learning and AI for different positive purposes: health, mobility, transportation, energy. And I'm also a sea kayaker.
Really?
I've been kayaking in the sea since a very early age.
Oh my God.
And so I'm very connected to the ocean. And I think that in a way, Gigablue is a combination of everything, because I started the company together with 3 co-founders. And my part was bringing AI hyperscale to climates, and doing that in the ocean, like with the incredible power of the ocean to capture CO2, leveraging the largest energy process on the planet. That was always the vision of Gigablue, and it combines kind of my AI career and my story with the ocean.
That is beautiful. Regarding kayaking, I personally am a very big kayaking fan myself. Haven't done it in the ocean or the sea yet, only in sweet water, so like lakes and rivers, but I'm really interested in doing that. Me personally, again, haven't done it in the sea yet, but yeah, my favorite spot to do it is Boston. I think you've spent some time in Boston as well. It's just a beautiful place to do it. Personally, what I think. Regarding Gigablue, it's been going for quite a while now, and I saw that you guys have been part of Catapult as well. I've been friends with Tharold, and my dad's been better friends with Tharold for a very long time, and we've been learning about what he's doing with the ocean and all this technology that's coming up. The first time I went to Norway was about 8 years ago, and that's when I really learned about this. So now to see things coming to fruition with that whole incubator and accelerator, it's really inspiring to see. Just to learn, I did do my AI research and learn about how you guys are capturing carbon, but just to share to quickly learn from you as well directly, how does your technology exactly work? And then of course I have some follow-up questions.
So unlike many carbon dioxide removal technologies that invented a new intervention or a new process, typically over-engineering a new solution and introducing it to the world, Gigablue took a very different approach. We relied on something that has been around for 3.5 billion years, photosynthesis. working at a massive scale of 50 gigatons per year. And we thought, how can we harness that and basically make it work for the purpose of making the largest impact on ocean health and the largest impact on climate health that humans ever did. So the technology is based on the local biology, the local phytoplankton, a microscopic algae that floats on the surface of the ocean all around the world. In nature, you have dust storms that bring minerals that basically serve as food, that enable the occurrence of photosynthesis. Without those dust storms, photosynthesis cannot thrive. And in a get full exposure to dust storms. And this is where we come in. We are basically biomimicking the natural dust storm with a controlled, engineered version of a dust storm in basically a pretty simple way. We created a particle that carried minerals, just like the natural dust particle brings minerals to the ocean surface. But unlike the natural dust storms, our particle maintains the minerals and the nutrients within it. It doesn't release it to the ocean, so it doesn't change ocean chemistry and biology in any meaningful way, but rather it serves as a farm, an ideal environment for phytoplankton to thrive. And then after 18 days, we change the density of the particle and it sinks all the way down to the ocean sediment, thousands of meters of depth, resulting in hundreds to thousands of years of sequestration and removal. And the sequestration part is powered by gravity. The capture part is powered by sunlight, and your real estate is the ocean. So you have like a perfect triangle of sunlight, gravity, and water that fuels the carbon removal process at unprecedented scale, ability, and unit economics.
Awesome. No, it's really exciting, and I mean, I'm sure you must have gotten this question quite a few times, but when it sinks to the ocean, doesn't it damage the ocean in any manner? Because
Not at all.
sorry, go ahead.
I mean, nature does it at a rate of 50 gigatons, right? We are a tiny drop in comparison to the same process that is happening in nature.
Mm-hmm.
So if the natural process doesn't damage the ocean, then there's no reason for an engineered, controlled version of that same process to cause any damage to the ocean. In fact, the slow carbon cycle, the natural slow carbon cycle does the same exact thing. Phytoplankton sinks to the ocean sediment and joins the slow carbon cycle in nature. So our carbon basically gets to the same place, back to the ocean sediment. By the way, this is back to where we humans drilled it from, right? We've spent 100 years drilling on the ocean sediment and extracting carbon and putting it in the atmosphere. All that Gigablue does is basically take it back from the atmosphere, bring it back home to ocean sediment for long-term sequestration. The whole process is threshold based. So we are continuously monitoring the environment before, during, and after. And the particles spread on a massive area, so there's never a concentration that causes depletion of any ocean resource. And this is how we assure the safeguards required for scalable operation in the ocean.
Sorry, absolutely. No, it's really inspiring to see how, again, it's a nature-based solution. I have many follow-up. I think I would have a lot of questions regarding this, never-ending questions. So I'll just use ChatGPT for that, or Gemini. But one question I did have, because I recently learned about how there's dust coming in from Africa into the ocean, and then there's an excess supply of seaweed or algae now getting produced in the ocean, which is washing up. I'm very bad with geography in the manner of learning the names of the oceans. So the ocean between South America and Africa, and it's washing up in South America or the Caribbean, where it's again producing more methane, or a problem for the environment locally. Can technology like yours actually facilitate uh, that algae either getting used in a better manner or getting stored on the floor of the ocean or the ground, before it actually washes up on the shore and actually creates more of a problem than a solution?
So we are getting these requests very often, and not only in the geographic site that you mentioned, also in Australia and in Europe and in areas that are exposed to excess growth of toxic algae or other types of conditions. Very often we are being asked to use our particles in order to clean or remove um, a certain element that is not ocean positive. We are not doing it just yet. We're very focused on the research and the scale up of our current technology. But this definitely can be used for other purposes in the future. As it scales up, it could mitigate certain conditions. And I think that, the most impactful mitigation that MCFS does is removing CO2 from the ocean, the silent killer that leads to ocean acidification and ocean sediment. And maybe the biggest pollutant of the ocean is actually CO2. So the direct impact of MCFS is removal of CO2, excess CO2 from ocean water. And just by doing that, the positive impact to ocean health can be massive. And that's why this is where we put our energy. But we are looking into exploring other positive pathways to leverage this technology in the future.
So again, it is again very important to stay focused, and I see why you would do that since it is new. And again, I think, I mean, that satisfies me personally. I don't know if it satisfies other people or not. Just to learn about the scale of this specific technology, um, and me personally, I wouldn't say I completely understand this product as of now, of course, because I'm very new to it, learning about it. But just by trying to understand what scale it can actually reach, when so individuals like me, which would be joining work or starting work in the climate market, or um, to start thinking about climate change and actually bringing up different solutions, where our solution might be completely different than someone else's. And we have this number in front of us coming from different sources that by 2030, we need 1.2 trillion trees, or an equivalent impact to be like that X amount of carbon that we need to capture or um, either sequester or, of course, avoid every year. And we're trying to work with that number. Now, that might be a number before Google announced or OpenAI announced that we're going to be setting up so many more data centers, or so much more energy is going to be required in the US or different countries, or being consumed. What kind of ratio do you see, or how big of a solution do you see this specific technology where algae is getting used as the solution for climate, of course, and becoming not just washing something away or storing it in the ground of the floor, but creating an asset for the future as well, for the future generations?
So I think that anyone who is considering to basically hop in on the climate impact wagon I would focus, I mean, whatever pathway you choose, I think that we have learned a lot in the last couple of decades from past attempts where, such as, direct air capture and other facility-based solutions, we've invested billions actually about 2/3 of the investment in carbon dioxide removal went into facility-based solutions that are very heavily dependent on energy and on very limited terrestrial real estate, and sometimes on feedstock that has a glass ceiling of availability. My advice would be to avoid that. The first thing that we did is we looked at, okay, what's going to limit us? Let's make sure that whatever we are going to design will not suffer from any scarce resources that, in the end of the day, will limit our ability to make a positive impact on ocean health and on the atmosphere. Just follow that guideline, and you're ending up with a very limited set of processes that happens on this planet. And so I think that the way to look at this is less like a climate person and the climate frame of thinking, but more look at it as a physicist, because it bears down to, mass transfer ratio in the end of the day, and how much feedstock converts how much CO2 into sequestered. So once you get the principle right, you're on track to create a new pathway that is truly scalable. Specifically, in the early days of Gigablue, XPRIZE recognized us as an X Factor company among there were 3 companies in the world that got that recognition, thanks to the ability to scale. And this outcome basically stems back to these principles that we laid out in Gigablue's early days.
No, that's really inspiring to see. When you learn about climate change and climate impact and players like you that are actually working on solutions, we are sometimes flooded with a lot of information or a lot of things from different players where you're sort of lost on how we can actually reach net zero globally. You guys are also helping organizations and I would say the world to reach net zero. What's your personal opinion on what's your take on reaching net zero on a specific year, or by doing something specific? What would you say about that?
I think that we need to become much more aspirational in terms of timing. Say, as a data-driven person, you look at the graphs of emissions, we haven't been overly successful in avoiding emissions. At least in the last 40 years, when I've been around, it's been a lot of talking and very little doing. And the amount of emissions keeps growing year over year. And so I think that, placing very, very remote goals for humankind is nice if you're the United Nations. But if you are a pragmatist doer or a carbon supplier, a carbon removal supplier like us, you also need to have very pragmatic near-term, mid-term goals to be achieved. So 50 gigatons in 2050 will not be done if 1 gigaton will not happen in 2030, 2035. Right? We cannot reach, let's assume that 30 gigaton will really be achieved through avoidance.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, right? Not today, maybe 2040, 2045. You still have 10 to 20 gigatons to work out with removal. And about 1,000 gigatons that we have already emitted that are in the atmosphere and needs to be removed because we are at an excess point. There's a lot of removal work to be done. So I think that we get excited by megatons, which is nice. It's a good start. but the transition from megatons to gigatons need to be much faster than we imagine, and the amount of pathways that exist today and their scale-up curves are not aligning with 2050 goals, at least not yet.
Um,
So these are my thoughts.
okay, so coming back to Gigablue and how your business model works, if I may ask. You guys are solely working on capturing carbon and then selling carbon credits. Is that how you guys make revenue, or is there other means? Just to learn more about how this specific business works.
There is also a circular economy element to it. So we are using recycled feedstock from waste streams to produce the particle. So natural fibers, so natural fibers are used to create one of the versions of the MCFS particle, and this means that we can also reduce waste and not only remove CO2. So there are other revenue streams behind the business, and we are also continuously looking at expanding positive impact in many more ways, and which basically strengthens us as a company and positions us in a place where we are not dependent on one revenue stream.
Interesting.
Think about the corporate side of that. If I'm approaching you and I'm reducing your waste and removing CO2 in the same time, it makes me more attractive and more aligned with your goals as a corporate.
Absolutely. No, that is true. And if I'm not wrong, ocean is the largest consumer of CO2 in the world, right? Or is it the Amazon? I do need the ocean.
The largest repository, the largest storage of CO2 is in the ocean.
Okay. But the largest amount of carbon removal is also done by the ocean, though, right?
Yeah, through photosynthesis driven by phytoplankton.
No, again, I know. So I know I have a lot of questions. We're a bit short on time. There's so much to absorb and then come up with more things. I would like your thoughts on what we're doing, if you allow me. And like because I'd like your criticism publicly, if that's okay. So what essentially what we're trying to do at Trillion Trees is me coming from a tech background. I didn't have any experience in I used to be a business development guy, so I wasn't big on data. I would get data and get it analyzed and then make strategies. So I wasn't more on how exactly something works. It was more about, okay, if something works, we connect the right people, connect the right dots, and then get that investment or get that player into the market and then grow it. So that's exactly what we started with Trillion Trees, where to think that, okay, if hypothetically the number of capturing the carbon emissions of 1.2 trillion trees and having that impact is important and is the only way out by 2030. Who is the player who can actually do it? And governments, of course, wouldn't be a viable solution in long term. We haven't seen efficient work done by all governments, if I say it collectively. And the solution we came up with was the Fortune 500s, where if they're actually holding most of the assets and revenue globally and the share globally, what if they could actually enable such businesses as of maybe yours, or a biogas digester business, let's say in India or Pakistan, or a seaweed farm in Tanzania, which are actually profitable businesses. Maybe someone even working on biochar or direct air capture. Profitable businesses that can be scaled, that would provide, of course, that would provide a lot of jobs and are cash flow positive. If we can actually get the Fortune 500s to commit to each commit to a 10 billion tree impact by 2030. And they make the right investments in the right places, and not just by their own money, but through them we can get capital as well, through different sources. Just by starting that cycle, we would see that if only 100 of them agree to do this by 2030, we can achieve a 1 trillion tree target, of course, by 2030 through this. It's I mean, as you mentioned, that we should be more focused on realities and not just the extreme. I mean, think that we will achieve this by 2050, and then we of course have to do all the work. Just to hear your 30 second thoughts, if you have any, on this strategy and what you might have to say about it.
I think your strategy is spot on. I think that the challenge that lies in front of you is how to drive them to action. There, in every normal market, you have early adopters, and they fuel demand in the early days of almost every product that we know. You had early adopters of electric vehicles, you had early adopters of AI, and in this market, you don't really have early adopters. Corporates do not behave as early adopters. They are very conservative, and they are reluctant to move without being compelled to do so, are very risk averse. And therefore you're missing an important place in the adoption curve, or the stack of the development of technologies such as CDR.
That was our podcast with Ori. Unfortunately, the call dropped, but it was an honor to have you, Ori, on the podcast. What you're doing is amazing. For me, truly inspiring, and an honor again to have hosted you. Really looking forward to more success with Gigablue and with everything that you guys are doing, with so much more that you guys will be doing. And I'm so excited to follow along with everything again, for your whole journey. If there's anything that Trillion Trees can do for you guys, or if any other support that I can provide, I would be honored to. And again, really looking forward to so much more coming from you guys. That was the Trillion Tree podcast, guys. Keep watching for more stories and to hear from people like Ori. It is important for us to start. Yes, it is a norm that people start talking about something and we don't follow through, or we don't do something that is adding value into our day-to-day lives most of the time. But our struggle and our day-to-day work at Trillion Trees is that, yes, we bring stories like these forward, but also bring forward such players onto our platform, onto our partner portfolio, and start with getting these guys more business, who are actually making an effort for the world. So we are not someone who would be planting trees. We are an organization that is facilitating companies like Gigablue, companies that are working in forestry, companies that are working on different products and different businesses, and we can help them scale so they can do their job of providing jobs, of paying those taxes, but also improving the environment and climate. That is a collective mission of everyone on planet Earth. So again, keep watching. I will now, I do promise now to stay consistent, and I shall do that. And keep following for more coming in from Trillion Trees. We have a bunch of other things to announce. One of which is that maybe I wrote a book which is getting launched soon, or it might have already been launched by the time this podcast goes out. But again, thank you everyone for watching, and see you in the next one.